How do you know if someone's ready to become a great salesperson? And then when they're ready to step up to become a leader? This clip from one of our episodes a long while ago with Taylor Corr, who's ex Bloomberg and Quantcast, and now he's at StackAdapt, is a bit of a masterclass. And I think we had this section of that podcast around the kind of 3-quarter mark, all about this transition point around when you hire great salespeople and then promote them to be leaders. What are the gaps? What are the challenges? What are the lessons that he learned in his career? And it's just way too good to keep in the archive. So we wanted to bring it to you as part of our best bits series. So without further ado, enjoy this clip from this episode. And if you do like it, we'll put a link to the show notes so you can enjoy the full conversation. Let's roll the BT.
I wanted to go back to something that you said earlier when I asked you about what makes you tick. And one of the things you said was about developing people. So we've talked a little bit about AE. So I wanted to ask you, what do you think makes for a really good AE and what should they be focusing on developing?
Yeah, so a couple things when I talk with, especially newer AEs are very curious. How do I grow? How do I develop? What do strong AEs look like? A couple things come to mind, and maybe I'm a little biased, but I think that organization to your day is incredibly important. I mean, as AE roles are so complex, you've got inbounding, you've got outbounding, you've got current clients to deal with, you've got in-process deals, internal stuff. Your day gets really hectic, and so having a really strong organizational rhythm is really, really important as an AE. I think really strong AEs have a very strong understanding of their ICP and what a good and a bad deal looks like. Again, I think it's a really tough lesson for young reps, but when they can get to the point where they can disqualify with confidence because they know it's going to save them time in the long run, because they know they can develop pipe to replace what was in there, getting to that point is incredibly important, and selling the right deals to the right people. The third thing I'd add is a really strong focus on a growth mindset, and that especially early in the career, maybe less so for enterprise reps, but if you are an SMB, mid-market rep, you're in those first few years, having that constant focus on what can I learn from, where's my next, path to development, what skills do I need to work on? I think that's incredibly important. And I see that with the most successful AEs, they are really heavily focused on how to continue to grow.
And what are some of the pitfalls that you see for people in that kind of early stage of their career?
Yeah, I think, and this can happen, you get bogged down in some of the weeds and the challenges at an organizational level that distract you from maybe the opportunities ahead of you. And that's easy for me to say as a sales leader, right? Like, oh, I want you to be less distracted by the things that aren't going well. But at and I can't stress this enough, any sales org you join is going to have warts. You're either not going to like the comp plan, you're not going to like one of your cross-functional teams. Oh, legal's too slow here. Oh, this policy doesn't work here. Salesforce doesn't work here. My tools, I don't have enough tools. There's always going to be some set of issues. Not to say you should ignore them. We definitely want to work on those and help that improve that for the reps. But you can see when reps do start to go down kind of that spiral of negativity where, legal screwed me out of this deal. I couldn't close this. If I would have had this tool, if this would have gotten improved. When they start to go down that slippery slope, it is really hard to recover and get back on track. And that's where the disengagement comes from. That's where it becomes really hard to kind of execute in your role because, clients can feel it too. And you're maybe not as enthusiastic and excited about the solution that you're pitching. So that's one big thing. And it's really tough sometimes to avoid that negativity spiral. Having a really great relationship with your manager, talking through some of these challenges is really important. And then I do think that a couple, typically, especially for younger sales reps, a couple years in at a company, they start to feel the itch. What else is out there? Am I in the right spot? And that becomes a big challenge and distraction as well. The biggest thing I would say is that oftentimes, or not oftentimes, but there are plenty of times where I see with reps where they kind of suffer in silence with that. And, I've seen some reps who are very open about it and work through that with a mentor, a manager, a director, someone along those lines who can help add some career clarity for them. I mean, I've had reps come to me and say, hey, I got an offer from Google for this and I'm struggling with it. Or, hey, I'm just not, I don't know what's next for you. I don't know if I'm feeling super engaged. And that takes a lot of courage, but that's the only way that someone like me might be able to help and, maintain that open dialogue. I appreciate the heck out of the bravery it takes for someone to do that with a leader at the company and kind of talk through that. But I think it adds a lot of power internally. It helps you maybe define your internal career path a little more. It then enlists resources for you internally to try and help do whatever we can, especially if you're in good standing, you're a good performer. myself as a leader, and really any good leader is going to do whatever they can to hold on to you. And that could take many different forms. That could be increased pay, different responsibilities, a different team, but we want to respond and support that. So that can be a big challenge. The communication is the way through there.
And what are some of the potential outcomes from that? Because I think that is it does take a lot of bravery to have that conversation. And you seem like quite a safe pair of hands, if that makes sense. Like, you're someone who will engage with that conversation. Doesn't seem like you'll punish them for that conversation. So I would love to hear, like, what do you think are some of the outcomes, like some of the good outcomes that can come from those conversations, but also some of the bad outcomes that people can be prepared for as well?
Yeah, so I think it does a couple things. For me as a leader, it puts that front and center for me. It's like, okay, John, here's what they're feeling. And this is a real situation. Someone came to me and said, hey, I got an offer for Google that's up here. I want to be here. I don't need Google's offer, but I kind of need to be here. That's, but I love what we're doing here. Okay, great. That then for me squarely as a leader, as far as my priority list, I'm thinking, okay, what can I do to get John there, right? That's either we're going to promote him to the mid-market or enterprise team because his pay is going to bump up, or I'm going to go to our CFO and, it depends on your organization, and, try and get him a small bump or a spiff or a bonus for this quarter. That's kind of on my mind. But I'm also thinking about, okay, money might be that main priority, but I know that this rep might need a little more TLC. So maybe that's like, hey, we're going to coach together, or hey, there's other things that they care about. Hey, you wanted to have a mentor in the enterprise team. Great, let's do that. Or hey, you wanted to be on the road more. Well, let's get you out with clients. Then I'm thinking about stuff on the periphery and ways I can support that rep. We don't like to have, like you're a teacher, you're a coach, you don't have a favorite, but yeah, those top performers, they do get a little more attention in situations like that, right? It also kind of puts on my radar, this person might leave at a certain point. I need to be preparing for that for the team, right? I'm not going to share that with other folks, obviously, like that. And that's where you hope that leaders aren't going to go to, hey, this person's about to leave, or hey, they're having reservations about this role. Because I've had people cross-functionally come to me, hey, this isn't quite working out for me. This is what I'd like to be doing. Oh, okay, great. I'm not going to go to your boss. And, I'm sure that does happen in some situations, but here's what I can do, from my perspective to try and help you out and keep an eye out for you. I've even had that happen where, folks have come to me, and then either when I leave my role or they leave their role, then we can kind of be a resource for one another in the career journey. So, helping folks at a prior company to say, hey, or they've left and now they're looking to leave that new org, and you're then a resource for them, and you kind of have an understanding of their motivations and where they want to go. And so that kind of trust and honesty really does build the relationship to a strong point. And then I'm trying to do whatever I can to help them out and retain those folks.
And I think a lot of this hinges on one of the things that you said, is that you have to be a performer. I think people need to get a really good understanding of where they are in that leaderboard. Because if you are at the top of the leaderboard or top X% of the leaderboard, those conversations go very differently than if you're mid, bottom of the leaderboard. Like, it's a very different conversation.
And that's why I always tell people, regardless of your motivation, what you want to do at the company, focus on being excellent at your role, because that opens up doors. That opens up doors internally, externally, especially, and I think the classic example, you talk with a young rep who doesn't know if they want to be, say, a manager or an enterprise rep, or what that next step is. And I always say, great, focus on being a phenomenal SMB rep in this current role. And that will open up doors for you internally. Because a year from now, if you decide, hey, I really want to be a manager. Well, great. You're doing a great job in this role, or, or an enterprise rep, the doors open up. I remember that with back in the day when I was in junior high and high school, and no idea where I wanted to go to college or what I wanted to do. My parents were like, okay, well, get good grades, and then that'll open up some doors depending on where you decide you want to go. So it's a similar concept. So I always tell people, excellence in your role, that's where you then get to have more honest, frank discussions, and get to then you have the buy-in from the org for some of the decisions that you want to make.
I can agree more. And so you mentioned that you're a second line manager, and we've talked a little bit about kind of that first line in terms of the AEs and that kind of the younger people. What about for the managers? What are some of the things that you really focus on in terms of developing first time managers?
Yeah, I think this is one of the most under-resourced and underappreciated areas of any organization. I know that at Samsara, at my current org, they're starting to roll out a much more in-depth program for it, which I'm very thankful for. But I think managers kind of get underappreciated because often second leader doesn't have a lot of bandwidth, or isn't maybe equipped to kind of be in that coaching capacity, or the enablement team is really focused on the frontline reps, but not necessarily on the managers, and they can get lost in the shuffle pretty easily. So I think the other real big challenge is it's really hard to measure progress as a manager. As an AE, there are so many numbers to look at, right? You can say, hey, I want to improve my close rate, X to Y. Hey, I want to get better at discovery, so I'm going to use this conversational intelligence software to help me see where I'm getting better at discovery. I want to up my activity. I want to get better at writing emails. I want to look at my reply rate. That's a pretty easy A to B motion. For managers, and like we were talking about earlier with that emotional intelligence journey, it can feel slow, can feel hard to measure, a little ambiguous. So I always work with managers on trying to find an area where they feel like they want to improve. And so good examples, that might be creating a stronger team culture. That might be becoming more data driven, having a stronger operational rhythm. I want to help my team close big deals, I want to be a better deal coach, so on and so forth. So I think first kind of trying to figure that out, which requires, again, a lot of honesty, a lot of digging through the numbers, like, hey, your team, is closing deals at a lower rate than other folks. Let's dive into that a little more. It might take some coaching like that. So first focusing on those areas and then trying to define those metrics as best as possible. Sometimes it's not easy, right? Like with the emotional intelligence journey, there's no metric that I could put in front of a manager to say, hey, you're progressing. That's more of a subjective conversation we might have monthly or quarterly around those areas. Sometimes it is like, hey, I want to improve my team's conversion rate from 52% to 65% to be in line with the team average. Oh, okay, great. We're going to do X, Y, and Z. Here, we're going to do deal coaching at these times. We're going to, help you forecast and learn to dive into the numbers. And there's some ways we can kind of apply some coaching skills there. I really love manager development because it is more challenging. There's more areas to dive into. There's that subjectivity that makes it more of a back and forth and a real partnership. So that's a really fun element. I would encourage any frontline managers to seek out those resources somewhere. Maybe that is a Harvard Business Review membership and you're diving into a topic every month. Maybe that's a mentor outside of your company. Maybe it's bugging your enablement team to kick off a leadership program. There's so much there that when you first start as a manager, you might not even realize that all these things you got to grow and develop into. So really seeking out and being proactive about that learning journey, because often it's not going to come to you.
And I think that one of the things that is a personal bugbear of mine is that when you're an individual contributor, you are really good at what you do, and then that's when you get promoted. You get promoted because you're good at being an IC, but you've not necessarily had the training that you need to go from an IC to a manager or a leader. And that, I think, is where so many people struggle, because it's very different. The challenges are very different. The behaviors are very different. What made you good as an IC doesn't necessarily make you good as a leader or a manager. I think so that's where what you're saying about you need to seek out is really, really important, because it's often not the plan of the organization to get you ready before they put you in the role. It just doesn't work that way.
I think of, there's I don't even know what it's called. It's the competency square or whatever, but you start, you're unconsciously incompetent.
Yes. Yes.
You don't know what you don't know and you're bad at it. And then you are consciously incompetent. You know what you're bad at. Consciously competent, and then inconsciously competent, like you're riding a bike. And I think, so many managers, you start at that unconscious incompetence. Same as I was. I had no idea that I was so bad at coaching and, and wasn't compassionate, mechanically compassionate and everything. Wasn't even aware of that. So you have to seek out the feedback. You have to seek out those focus areas and mentors to even uncover what you need to learn from.
Thank you for listening and watching this Best Bits short. If you like this, tune in next Sunday for our next special part of our favorite episodes. And if you love the main podcast, every Thursday we introduce you to a new virtual mentor so you can hear their career story and answers to the biggest questions in tech. See you on the next episode.